Welcome everyone to King James Bible University. I'm Elder Michael Johnson with the Lost Sheep of Israel. And today we're going to finish out and we're going to start cranking up some more precepts, which we're going to get ready for. And if you want to join us and you want to go through this journey with us, you can actually go to the Moab. You can actually get the file to where you can download it. And then from there, you can start precepting it through there. So make sure you look at it, make sure you go through it, make sure anything that you have, if you have a Bible with references, and most people when you have a Bible that you have references, you actually don't have precepts. So if you want to start precepting your own Bible, the best thing to do is to go in, get that file to where you start precepting, which you'll get the foundation of all the precepts of the Bible that you need to understand each of the verses. That's what we're doing. And you have some people we're going to add their own, but then with that you can actually go later, you can have it printed, or later you can actually make an EPUB of it or e-reader. You can do it to where you can put it on your different devices, but then right there, every time you read the verse, you'll have the exact precepts to understand exactly what the Bible is saying and what it's been telling you. So that's what's going to happen. So we're going to get my mug out the way, and I'm going to get ready to crank up and do what we need to be doing. So let me move and set up, and we're going to get ready. We're going to start going through here and making sure that each one of you guys left off where we needed to be doing. I want to make sure one of the parts is what we was taking care of, and I actually don't see that setup right at this point. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sit there and make sure that we have that one taken care of. So I need to set up a new one to make sure that we have it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to set that window up to where we can have that window set. And that window set up, and now we can configure it. And what we're going to do, we're going to go through, and I want to make sure that I have this pages set up, which there we go right there, and we can click that, and let me put this in here to where we have the audio and everything with it, and then let me set that to fit, and we're gonna get cranked up. So we got to remember right where we left off and everything else. So let's start going through, and let me put everything up that we need, and we will be set. So just giving it a minute, and it should be ready to go in 1 second. And I'm just trying to make sure we have here, and we're going to open up the note to where we can go through, and we're going through precepting the part of it, and we have all this set. So let me put this up. Let me switch us. We're going to switch over, and then we're going to start going through the Bible. So make sure you have your Bibles ready. If everybody have everything ready, make sure you start going through this to where we're going to go through the Bible, and we're going to start precepting. And what we did as of yesterday, we finished off at verse 6. We finished off at verse 6. So if you didn't, make sure you're at least caught up to this point, to where verse 6, and if not, go back. And if you notice, they're moving a lot of stuff over to the Kids King James Bible University side. So if not, go over there and join to make sure you can join there, because this is the main place. That's the main place where this actually going to be setting, and this is where we're going to be running live all the time. So remember, we went through, and with mine, I was highlighting everywhere where it said God said, and we highlighted it blue, to which you have to remember it's your Bible, so you can highlight it the way you want to, and you can do it how you want to. So I highlighted mine to which you can see where he spoke, and then it says, and he called the light day and everything else, and then it says, and God said, and you see where I highlighted everything where he is speaking. So you're welcome. You do yours the same way if that's what you choose to do. And what we're going to do now, we're going to go up, and when it finished off with verse 6 right here. So now we're going to verse 7. So what I'm going to do, put my cursor there, and I'm using a Mac. So some people use PCs, and if you're having a problem with your Word doc or whatever, because some people I know Word is kind of quirky and sometimes, but what you can do is actually me and someone else, we went over to Google Docs and put the Word document in Google Docs, and it works beautifully. So you can do that, and you'll be doing it online, and actually over there it automatically saves it continuously. So what I'm doing, I'm separating this, and I'll have a separation between this. So what I'm doing right now, and as I said, I'm a little bit different than other people. So what I do, I copy and I paste to where I don't have to just format it, then put it to the size I want it. I don't have to do that. So that's technically why I do that. So the first one we're going to look at, and as I said, as we do, as we go through the scriptures, we're going to read this, and then we're going to start putting the precepts in there, but then we have to read the precepts to make sure we're not putting in something that is odd. Okay? So this is what we're doing. We're going to look at this, and it says, and Yahweh made the firmament and divided the waters which was under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. We need to explain this. So it gets really interesting. So one of the first ones we're going to get some understanding of, we're going to put in right here, and I abbreviate. So some people are going to write out the entire verse, and some people are not. But I abbreviate. I do abbreviations. In mine, I do Genesis, and some people are going to put G in, and some are going to do it the other way. I'm going to put 2 and 4. So this is the first precept we're starting with is 2 and 4. So we have to read this. 2 and 4, and it says, these are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created in the day that Yahweh God made the earth and the heavens. So we know now he made the firmament, divided the waters from under the firmament, and he did all these things. So we know right here, this firmament that was put up under and overneath, soon as he do the 2, you have these 2 heavens. That's why you see over here in verse 4, it says heavens. And when you see in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, you just see heaven. That's why you see that. So we know here that it was separated. So that's how we know that it's heavens, but once he did the separation. So most people, well, we have Bibles in the beginning, it says in Genesis 1:1, it says, and God created the heavens. No, he created the heaven and the earth. But when he started doing the separation, that's where you see the heavens kick in. So never let nobody fool you on what's going on. That's one of the purposes of this. So now we're also going to use Exodus 20 and 11. And what do we have? 20 and 11, we have to read it. As we said, we're going to read everything as we go through. It says, in 6 days, Yahweh made heaven and earth and the sea and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day, wherefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. But the key is, what you need is what he made and what he has separated. So we looking at this to where we starting to get through all that and getting through the separation. So we're going to sit another part. We got Deuteronomy 4:36. And we need to see that, what it's talking about. We got to understand this. And then a lot of this, you're still going to get understanding from other verses just based on this alone. Because once you understand this here, you got a lot of understanding, which as you go through, it's just going to be kind of explaining itself. And if you ever notice, he really repeats himself a lot. We got to remember we're sheep. So, and he has to constantly talk to us to tell us repeat the same thing. So here it says, out of heaven, he made thee to hear his voice. Now, you know this going to run you to a whole lot of other places. But what we got to do, we stay focused on what was happening. So out of heaven, he made thee to hear his voice, that he might instruct thee, which upon earth he showed thee the great fire, and thou heardest his word out of the midst of the fire. Now this here is actually telling you quite a bit even though it's still explaining this. And I know this will run you in a lot of places. But what you have to do, we have to stay strict. We have to stay right on the scripture itself. We can't run away from it. Because we run away from it, you'll come up with a whole bunch of other stuff, and you'll explain a whole bunch of other stuff that we don't want to explain. All we want to explain is this verse, nothing more. So we got to keep moving. We're going to go through. We got Psalms 33 and verse 6. In Psalms 33 verse 6, we got to see what that one is talking about. And it says, by the word of Yahweh were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. So we know here, and God made the firmament, so we know the heavens is the firmament, so he made that with what? The breath of his mouth. So we understand what's going on here. We understand what's happening. But we still always want to concrete in, and we always want to make sure we have different ammunition if needed for our clarification. So we're also putting in Psalms 121 verse 2. It says, my help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. Now you see how it goes back singular? Because that's what he did from the beginning. They were singular. So this is why you see heavens, then you see sometimes where it says heaven, because when you see heavens, it's after they was first created. Now he's talking about after we put down, heavens is going to kick in. But at the beginning, heaven and earth. You see, both of them are singular. So those are the things that where you need to always keep in mind on how things play. So now we have this one, and we need to go, and we're going to add another precept. We're doing it in Hebraist 16:55. And we got to see what that one says. We need to see what everything says. As I said, we're going to constantly go through, and we got to check. It says, which spake but the word, let the earth be made, and it was made. Let the heaven be made, and it was created. You see that? One was made, one was created. But we're going to sit there, and all this stuff later, we're going to start explaining itself. But what you don't want to do is start trying to say, okay, he says one made and one created, so we need to figure this out. No, don't figure it out, because you end up Hebraizing the verse. So we got to stay with what it is. So this is why it's safe to keep the foundations there and not add to it if you don't know what to add to it. But then as you start learning and start understanding precepts, then you might go back and you might change your document and then re-put it out in an EPUB or whatever, in the way you have better understanding. So we also got to use another one, which is in Esther. We have to use Esther, and we're going to use 13 and verse 10. So we're going to go to Esther 13 and verse 10, and we want to see what that says. Because we need to understand all parts of the Bible, and precepts comes from everywhere throughout the Bible. So we need to look at everything was there, and we have to see what Esther is saying. So let's go to Esther. We're going to go to 13, and 13 is not going to be in your regular Bible. 13 is actually going to be in the Apocrypha. Are you with me? So I'm going to give you a minute, because most people might don't know. Chapter 13 is in your Apocrypha and is not in your regular Bible. So we're going to look at 13 and verse 10, because most people don't went and they look like, oh man, well, mine only go up to this, because it was more to it than what you see, because they've taken these books out of there. So we're looking at chapter 13, verse 10. It says, for thou hast made the heaven and earth and all the wondrous things under the heaven. This is what's going on here. That's what's happening here. So we have this, and now we got to look at the deeper one, which we're going to have some things we have to explain there. We got to go through verse 8. So we got to separate 8. And I'm going to put my preceptor there, my precepts right there, and make sure you save it. If you're not saving the document, make sure you save it to where you won't lose it later. And this one here, we need to explain some things which happening. Now it says, and Yahweh called the firmament heaven, and the evening and morning were the second day. I'm sorry. So we need to explain this. We know what heaven is. So there's no reason to where we need to keep explaining heaven or firmament, because it gets all, I'm talking about, as we go through here, we start finding out what firmament is. It says God said let the firmament. So we know what a lot of this stuff is. So we need to understand a couple of other things. We need to understand what evening is. We need to understand what evening is. So we're going to understand this. We need to put evening there. We need to put evening here, and we need to start explaining evening. So first we're going to look at Genesis 1 and 5. Genesis 1 and 5. And we're going to go look at it. No matter what you might know about heart, don't matter. You go and you look at the verse and make sure it is what it is. And it says, and God called the light day, and darkness called night, and evening and the morning were the first day. What is this saying here? What is this saying here? So we're going to find out later in the same part. We're going to find out how things became and changed, because evening and morning were the first day. Evening coming first. Morning comes with that. When the evening changes the day. Evening changes your day, not morning or night. That was gonna do it. It's already in. But this is going to explain that for you. So we're going to look at some things. We're trying right now. We're going to explain in the evening. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna highlight this. As if you notice, when we explaining something, you see why I highlighted these. Darkness. Actually, I didn't highlight this. So go back and we're going to straighten that up. We're going to straighten this up. In midst of the waters, we need to straighten this up. This is just how this works. This is just how this works. So midst of that, and we don't want to highlight this either. So we want to make sure we keep this straightforward. So we only highlighting what the word is, and then we're going to find out what it actually means. That's what we're going to do. If you want to highlight example, you can highlight example. I normally not too much, but I need to just make sure that we're going through and we doing some cleanup on this here, and we're making sure that we'll be consistent as we move forward. That's what we're doing. We're going to be consistent as we move forward. So now we have everything else. Save that document, and let's keep moving forward. So now we need to add up another one. So we're going to put in Exodus 16 and verse 12. Exodus 16 and verse 12. And we need to look at it to see what this one says, because evening and morning was the first day. So we got to start understanding what this says. It says, and I heard the murmuring of the children of Israel speak unto them, saying, at even ye shall eat flesh. In the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh your God. Meaning what? Just a little real flip side, because we just need to push through, but just give you an understanding a little bit of what's going on here. He said, see, the next day you're going to eat flesh, and in the morning, so you're going to go to bed. So as you go to bed, he's going to feed you the flesh. He's going to feed you with the bread. He's going to give you the spiritual knowledge that you need with the dreams and visions and everything. That's what's going to happen there. In the morning, you shall be filled with bread. That's all he's technically telling you. Real simple. But we're going to keep moving. We're going to keep moving, but it gets a little bit deeper, but we're going to keep moving there. And then we're going to look at verse 18 and 13. 18 and 13. We need to see what that one is saying. And actually 13, actually we can actually put 14 right along with it. We can put 14 right along with it. I don't know why I separated it over here. but 14 goes right along with it. So it says, and it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat and judged the people, and the people stood by from the morning until evening. So they went to Moses in the morning, and they stood there and waited to talk to Moses till the next day, to evening. Evening, 6 o'clock. People gonna tell you, well, when the sun go down. No, that's not what that's saying. But people would lie to you and tell you, no, when the sun set and all this stuff. No, 6 o'clock. I don't care if it's in the daytime or in the summertime, where you see where the sun is to be up at 9, 10 o'clock at night in some places. At 6 o'clock, it's evening. It's done. It's a wrap. It don't go down when the suns go down. So if it don't, then what about people over in Alaska? Because sometimes the sun don't go down. But then verse 14, and Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did, and the people said, what is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sitteth thou thyself alone, and all the people stand by thee from morning into the next day, to even into the next day? That's what he's saying. But we have more we're going to put in here, because we're not here really to give a lot of my mumbo jumbo marbish, but we're just pushing through to give some stuff to where I can give you some understanding as we push through, because we actually have quite a bit over here to do, because we're going to go through quite a few verses today. Okay, 14, we're going to go through 27 and 21. 27 and 21. And it says, in the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall order it from when? From evening till morning before Yahweh. It shall be a statute forever unto the generations on the behalf of the children of Israel. So we see it still keeps starting right at the beginning of the next day. The next day, that's when things starting to happen. But we're going to get all this stuff cranked out. Don't worry, we're going to get everything cranked out and remove any illusions that you might have. We're going to go to Leviticus 11, 39, and 40. Because the only way you can get understanding, this is why sometimes you need so many other precepts. And that's why you see some have a lot of precepts and some have very few precepts, because of the verse need to be explained. Now it says, on this one, it says, if any beast of which ye may eat die, and it says, he touches the carcass thereof, shall be unclean until the next day. That's what this is saying. But it says until even, until the next day. This is, you see, you're learning in a completely different language, but you're going to learn it through precepts. That's the beautiful thing about this. The beautiful thing about this. You're learning an entirely different language. But watch this, verse 40. And it says, and he that eateth of the carcass of it shall wash his clothes and be unclean until even, until the next day. Now he's saying this can be eaten, so he's not talking about an unclean animal. He's talking about something that is clean, that has died, and you still ate it. So don't sit there and say, oh, well, I can go eat pork or swine or crabs, which is sea roaches. I can go eat this stuff, and I'm only going to be unclean until the next day. That's not what this is saying. This is saying, if this carcass die, and then you eat of that carcass, which you can eat, you will be unclean until the next day. You just decided you just want to eat it. You sitting there, no, he died, I'm still going to eat this joke. That's what this is saying. And it says, until evening, and also that beareth the carcass of it shall wash his clothes and be unclean until even, to the next day. That's what this is saying. So many people I know they're going to try to sit there like, oh man, I thought I'd get out of it. No, you still can't eat unclean foods. That's the deal. So we're going to look at Judges 21 and verse 2. And we need to look at that one also to where we get the understanding. So we know right now it's running into that next day quite a bit. And it says, in the people, Judges 21 verse 2, it says, and the people came to the house of Yahweh and abode there until what? The next day before Yahweh. Until even before Yahweh, and lift up their voices and wept sore. This is what they did. This is what they did. Let's look at another one. Let's look at Ruth 2 and 17. Let's look at Ruth 2 and 17. And it says, so she, who? Ruth, gleaned in the field until the next day, until 6 o'clock in the evening. The next day started. And beat out that she had gleaned, so you know it still had to be light. Couldn't have been pitch dark because she wouldn't have been doing that. You see that? But you see even how it explains itself, and then all you have to do is really just use your common sense. Because if she worked until 6 o'clock and then beat out all that she had gleaned, if it was pitch dark, she wouldn't even know what to pick up. But this is the silliness that people give you. This is why this is so important. But now we got to explain some more, because it says evening and morning. So we're going to explain it, then we're going to start putting it all together. So we're going to put evening first. And this is, and if you don't want this there, don't worry about it. And night is second. Why? I'm doing that for a reason. So if you want to do that, you do it. If not, you don't. So it's up to you. But I will really want you to do this. Why? Because this is going to be very important. This is going to come and play an important part on what you need to know. Let's go through it. Genesis. We're going to go to 30 and 16. Because we need to know what this stuff is. So we're going to go to Genesis 30 and 16. Because we're going to explain stuff as we go through. It says, and Jacob came out of the field in the evening the next day, and Leah went out and met him and said, thou must come into me. For surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he laid with her that night. Did you see this? See, because he laid with her that night, but he came in the field in the evening. So you know she came out to meet him, but then that night she said she wanted him to lay with her. So that's what happened. Showing you these are different clearly times. But we have another one actually right here to help you understand. And these are no, this is not the one, because it's another one behind that one. But we're going to use Numbers. We're going to use 9:21, and then we're going to come back to Genesis, because we have to do this in an order to where we're going to get some clarification. That's why. So we're going to go to Numbers 9:21. Numbers 9:21, and it says, it was so when the cloud abode from even until morning, from the next day until the morning, and that the cloud was taken up in the morning when they journeyed, whether it was by day, see that, or by night, the cloud was taken up, they journeyed. I'm talking about this is clearly explaining this verse for you. Clearly explaining the verse for you. Now we're going to look at Deuteronomy. We're going to look at that one. And don't mix these up. This, because you mix it up, it can actually end up giving you a false understanding here. So, because if you put the Genesis, which we're going to hit some other Genesis, but if you put these other Genesis with this, it'll actually confuse you. So I want you to stay with this way that I have it structured, if you can. Okay, we're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 4. And it says, and there should be no leaven. There should be no leavened bread seen with thee in all thy coasts 7 days. Neither shall there anything of flesh which thou sacrificest on the first day at even remaineth all night until the morning. You see how that just, I'm talking about just solid all the way through. Solid all the way through. But we have another one here to explain this one here that should take care of some of this, but we still got some more in here. We're going to go to 38 in verse 12. Isaiah 38 in verse 12. Isaiah 38 in verse 12. It says, my age is departed, and remove me from as a shepherd's tent. I have cut off like a weaver my life. He will cut me off in pinning sickness from the day even to night. So what that's saying, it's italicized, but the even is put there for clarification. So it's saying actually from day to night, meaning what? The next day is already came in. That's why that's there for clarification. Because most people will hold to day and night, will hold it as to one day. But right at even, the day changes. So this was there, put there for clarification. That's why when you look in your King James Bible, you see it's italicized. That's why you see that. And it says, will thou make an end of me? All right. But we have more to explain here. So now we need to put all this together. So we got to do it morning, after, evening. Okay. Oh, got that wrong. So let me do this one too. M-O. All right, N. I don't know what. I-N. Okay, so actually let me put this here. And let me bold that. And then we're gonna start understanding this. So we're gonna put it in Genesis 24, verse 54. 24, verse 54. And that's why I said don't mix this with the one on top. Evening, morning after evening. You see up there, evening got Genesis. Don't mix these together. Keep them separated. So make sure you say, but let's go to Genesis 24:54. And let's look at that. It says, and they did eat and drink, he and the men that were with him, and tarried all night. And they rose up in the morning and said, send me away unto my master. So it was already that night. So it was already in the next day. So they already was in that day. But they tarried all night and they rose up in the morning. You see that? So this is what we understand in here. But watch, we're gonna get even more. We're gonna go to 44 in verse 3. We're gonna look at 44 verse 3 and see what that has to say there. 44 verse 3. And it says, as soon as morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their asses. So we know right here, the next day, so evening came first, then night, then morning. That's what all this is explaining for you, to where we know what's happening. So we know evening is first. See, and what they have fooled us in doing, which we're gonna explain that. You're gonna actually see this. you're going to see how they changed all this. Just in this verse alone, you're going to catch this yourself. So we need to explain this. So now we're going to look at Exodus. And we're going to go to 9 and 13. 9 and 13. What do 9 and 13 say? It says, and Yahweh said unto Moses, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh and say unto him, thus saith Yahweh God of the Hebrews, let my people go that they may serve me. So he's saying already evening and night is already passed. So we done did all what we do in the day, and now he's rested, but in the morning he goes and he does what was required of him to do. That's what the Most High was saying. He didn't want him doing it at night or at evening. That's why that happens. Let's go to First Esdras. And we're going to get some from there. 941. We're going to get some old information from Esdras. 941. It says, and he read in the broad court before the holy porch from the morning into midday, before both men and women and all the multitude gave heed unto the law. You see that? You see how clear that is? Just as clear as day. But it gets more to where we need to explain one more there. We're going to look at Luke. We're going to go to 24 in verse 1. Luke 24 and verse 1. We need to see what that one says. As I said, we got to read them all. It says, now upon the first day of the week. Now this is the catch. Here go the catch. This is what's going to really blow some people. It says, very early in the morning. So we already know it was the next day. They came into the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them. So what happened? See, they try to say he rose up on Sunday. That's what they say. But it's clearly telling you here, once you understand what happened, they went in the morning. So when did the day change? In the evening. So when you go look at Daniel, and it said he died in the middle of the week. He died on a Wednesday, and when he was buried until the time he got up, you'll see he rose up on the Sabbath day, and that proves it because the churches tells you he rose up on Sunday because they're looking at the morning as what happened as it changed the day, which we're going to make it clear. Why? Because we're going to look at, and what you do put here is put time changed. Time changed. Why? Because this is here for you to have a clear, fast understanding of something. Why? Because we're going to put it there. Daniel 7 verse 25. 7 verse 25. Why? Let's see what that says, because it makes it clear. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, because the Most High have set evening and morning, night, midday, all these are set by him. They're going to speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High to think. And think to what? Change times and laws. And they should be given unto a time and dividing the time. And this is what they do. They had changed the time. They had changed it from evening to where they didn't remove that, and now they just do it. They changed the day to 12 a.m. Entire 6 hours was removed. This is what they did. So now, besides you working, and most people work up until 12 o'clock, and then they say it's the next day. If you're working from 9 to 6, you're actually working until the next day, according to the Most High. And his law is the one that's right. So if you're working from 9 to 7, you working an hour more until the next day. You follow me? So this is what's happening. So make sure you save, and let's make sure you save your document, and let's go down. We got this one we're going to put in, and put my precept there. And now we're going to go to verse 9. We're going to verse 9, and we're going to see what verse 9 has to say here. So verse 9, we need to understand, and the first thing out of the gate, it says, and God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place. And the dry land appeared, and it was so. So the first thing we're doing, we're not going to do the call, but when God said something, I'm going to highlight mine. Why? Because I'm going to change it to blue. So everywhere where he spoke, I'm going to change it. So when people look at mine, they can see that, dang, he spoke. That's when he spoke. So you know everywhere where he spoke. That's what we doing. So it's saying, so God said, what? Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and dry land appear, and it was so. Let there be light, and there was light. Everything we know, everything what God said. Everything what God said. So let's look at some precepts from this. And the first thing we said, and God said, let this stuff appear. So what we need to understand first is what? This is wisdom that's been going on. Because he's saying everything gathered together in one place. So this is wisdom that he's using. So I'm putting wisdom here, and we're going to get some understanding on wisdom. We're going to get some understanding on wisdom alone. Why? Because this is what he's pushing. This is what he's pushing for us to understand. So we're going to look at Proverbs 18 and verse 4. Proverbs 18 and verse 4. How? How do we know this? The word of a man's mouth is as deep waters, in the wellspring of wisdom as flowing a brook. But watch what happens. Watch what happens. We need to find out more what this wisdom is. Because we go kind of light, and then we start moving more heavy. Let me put this. Oh, well, I got that right. So we're going to go to 20. We're going to go to 20 in verse 5. And it says, the counsel in the heart of a man is deep water, but his understanding will draw out. What is it saying? Because we're looking at wisdom. We're looking clearly at wisdom. Why is this? Watch what happens. We're going to go to Sirach 15, verse 3. 15, verse 3. With the bread of understanding shall she feed him, and give him the water of wisdom to drink. Are you following it? Some people are not going to follow this, but this is why we got to put in a couple of verses to make sure we're going to do this. We have another one, Nehemiah 8, verse 3. 8, verse 3. Nehemiah 8, verse 3. And it says, and he read therein before the street was, before the water gate, the morning until midday, before the men and the women, and those that could understand, and the ears of all the people were attentive unto the book of the law. See, what most people are not understanding, and why it's going in this fashion, because all this here is pretty much parabolic, which all of it is, but this is a little bit more complex. So these here, most people are not going to understand it. But this gives you clarification. This gives you the clarification. And some going to give you better clarification than the others. And we're going to go to Hebraist 5 and 9. Hebraist 5 and 9. We're going to look at that one. Hebraist 5 and 9. And it says, and the waters will be founded and sweet, and all friends shall destroy one another. Then shall wit hide itself, and understanding withdraw itself into his secret chamber. What is this saying? What is this absolutely saying? Because we need to understand exactly what it's saying. And one of the main ones, which is going to get many people, is this one. Is Genesis 1 and verse 8 itself. Why? Because it's going to explain that. It's going to explain actually all of it, but it's going to go through it. Because it says, and God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and morning was the second day. Why? Because he's gathered together into one place. But we got to understand something together. He got to explain something because it's wisdom. Gathered together. That's why I say we have to understand real how a lot of stuff he'll do in parabolic to where it's a little bit deeper, but we have to understand the way he's doing it. So we have to keep this together. So we're going to look at the first one we're going to do. We're going to go through, we're going to look at Numbers 1 and 18. 1 and 18. So he gathered, So he gathered together unto one place. He gathered together unto one place. This is what I say. He speaks. I'm talking about. This actually is a deep parable. It gets way deeper than this. And it says, and they assembled themselves. They assembled all the congregation together on the first day in the second month, which talks about a whole nother thing, and declared their pedigrees after their families, but by their houses of their fathers, according to the number of their names. Tells you that I'm saying. Some people probably caught right onto it. Some people probably still not quite getting it. But the main thing is you don't change this because this actually is explaining the verse. This is actually explaining the verse. So we need to know another one. Earth and ground. Earth and ground. And we need to understand what that means. Earth and ground. And mainly we don't want people going off coming up with a separated theology of what's happening. So earth and ground, it tells you right here. But some people take this, this means this, and that's not what it's saying. So we're going to look at this. It says Matthew 13, 4 through 8. I actually got to explain this. Earth and ground. And it says, and when he sowed some seeds, it fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell in stony places, and they had not much earth. Not much earth. You have to understand how this is putting this. Forthwith they purged up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, which explains some more, they were scorched. And because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But others fell unto good ground, and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. He's actually explaining the verse, but we're gonna keep moving forward. We're gonna go down to the next one, and we're going to look at verse 10. Verse 10 is actually, I put some things here for a reason. And we're going to look at something first because it's saying something very, very peculiar, which we need to understand what's happening. So what I did, I'm putting something to where you can type this in, where you're gonna find out some things. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna sit here and I'm going to put this in. If I can sit there and I can copy this, because that's definitely what I'm gonna do. If I can, let me see what this is. Well, okay, let me see if I can get this. If I can get that, I'm going to do this just that way. And nope, that did not work. So, I'm going to copy, I'm going to highlight that, I'm going to change this, Times Romans, put it at 8. And I don't know why it's separated that way, but then I'm going to italicize it. Oh, we don't want to do it that way. Nope, we don't want to do it that way. So I have to do this a little bit different. I need to strip this out. So let me strip this out another way to where I can get this the way I want it. So I'm going to strip that out. And nope, it's still doing it. So it looked like it's going to make me type it. So no worries. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to type it in. So what we need to type in is this. We're going to put the waters was called seas. All right. So we're going to put a note. Note. And we need to bold this. Note. Okay. Waters call he sees. Equals. That's not, I want to keep it that way. Equals. Waters in the sea. Uh-oh. 1 second. Waters in the sea. See, mix freely. It's easy. I'm trying to do it without looking. It's easily STIRED stirred up by winds and undercurrents. Oh, that's why it's doing. Why is shifting that? 1 second. It shouldn't shift this. Let me see. 1 second. Let me copy that. Let me take this out. Because it shouldn't do that. Yeah, so it shouldn't do this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this out and save that. And now let me see. And now let me put this in. No, that's still not going to work it. So let me put this. So let me do this. And change this. So what I want to do, I want to put note. And hopefully this should take care of it. If not, I'm going to go ahead and move forward, then I'm going to have to figure this one out. And yeah, it's weird. I don't know why it did it that way. Okay, so let us finish it out. ERS. So waters called he sees equals water in the sea mixes freely. It's easily It's easily stirred up by winds and undercurrent. Many waters cause what? Dispute, arguments, and can like ocean with other than so what is this saying? What is this saying? It says, what is called, he sees waters in the sea mixes freely. It's easily stirred up by winds and undercurrents. Now, if you don't want to italicize, let me see how it look unitalicized. Because some people might not, not bad. Not bad. I'm going to leave it that way. So, it's saying seas mix freely. It's easily stirred up by winds and undercurrents. Many waters easily. Got this one wrong. Easily cause disputes. Many cause disputes, arguments, and discretion. Can arise like waves on the ocean, generally with little effect other than a mixing of waters. Meaning what? Those are knowledges. Those are people who having issues with different understandings. That's what this is. That's what this is talking about. So these waters we need to understand. So waters is the knowledge, and the seas is talking about the peoples. That's why you see what's going on here. That's why he's saying he called the waters called seas. So it's the knowledge that people have. This is part of the problem. So how do we figure this out? Let's go to Psalms. We're going to go to 77:19. 77:19. We got to look at that. We're going to see what that says. Psalm 77:19. I don't think once we finish this one, we might not get that much further. And it says, thy way is in the sea, in thy path in the great waters, and thy footsteps are not known. Clearly telling you what this is talking about. Clearly telling you what this is talking about. It has another one right here, which we're going to use, and it's right there in Psalms 24 and verse 2. And what do that say? 24 and verse 2. And it says, for he hath founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods. So he's letting you know exactly what he established this amongst the people. It's telling you, this is very clear. That's what it's giving you. And we're going to go to another one. We're going to go to Jeremiah 51 and 36. 51 and 36. We need to see what that is saying. It says, therefore, thus says Yahweh, behold, I will plead thy case and avenge for thee, and I will dry up her sea, the people, and make her springs dry with no knowledge. This is what this is talking about. But we want to know what when he's calling this, because he's speaking parabolic, because even though he's saying seas and waters, he's not saying that. We have to understand what he's actually saying. So we're going to use the other one. It's two seas. And we got to get that. We're going to get that from Genesis 41. We're going to look at this. We're going to look at this, and actually two seas. I'm going to bold that out. And this one here, I'm going to bold that one. And that's what we're going to do. So now let's go look at Genesis 41:41. And it says, and Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. What is this saying? Two seas. Two manners of people. So you had two seas, and Joseph was a Hebrew and was an Israelite. And what you're going to see here, what was Pharaoh? Pharaoh was an Egyptian. Two seas met at once. So that's what's happening here. So we have to understand what's going on here and understand how this is actually playing in. And then when you start thinking the way that they think, you'll start getting out of a lot of stuff on what is actually happening. So what we need to make sure of all the time when we're going through this here is what's happening. But don't change anything, because if you change it, I guarantee you, you're going to be explaining something that's somewhere else, and you only want to explain this verse here. So that's why that note is there, so you'll know that water can mix freely. But then you'll see undercurrent, and seeing when he blows into it and all kinds of stuff, you can see where a whole lot of stuff gets mixed up. And that's what you don't want to do. So this is why it's so important to where you get into a lot of this, and then you don't want to get tied up into what this is talking about. That's what you don't want to get mixed up in. So just always make sure, when you're going through this, precept it out, and you're getting foundations. But if you're confident and say, like a lot of people who's in my classes, you have other precepts. You can add those because it's more precepts that you got back there. So you can add those to give you more clarification, even give you spiritual meanings. So you can do those. And then, so once you save it and put it out, you have it the way you want it. But right now we're doing foundational because we have a lot of people who don't know how to precept or don't even know what precepts are. But now they're getting them here. And you're getting them freely to where you can go through it, and you actually end up putting out your own Bible, to which you had a precept in the foundation of the understanding of those verses. So I wish that you guys continue, and if you haven't, please go over to the Moab. You can go over there. You can actually get the thing over there. I done missed myself. You can go over there to the Moab, and you can actually get everything over there to do what you want to do. But then from there, we're going to continually work through it. So just make sure on everything that you're doing, you continually just keep the additions in there, because as you continually add, it's going to continue to give you clarification. And the main thing I do want you to know, once we get past really about verse chapter 4, it's going to get real scary, because then it's going to start moving very fast. We're going to start going through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 verses, and we can be able to get them in one time. And some going to be even more, because right now he's setting the stage. So if he's setting the stage, sometimes it's a lot of stuff we have to explain, and you have to understand what those precepts mean. But then once you get through it, it's going to go real fast. Then when we get back in Leviticus, it's going to come down to another slowdown. Then after Leviticus, it speeds right back up again. And then from there, it goes pretty much like a light. So make sure that you guys just stay with that and continue on with that. And what I would do is make sure that if you haven't, make sure you join in with it. And it did it again. And I don't know why it keep doing that. Let me make sure this is right. Because I don't know why I keep doing it, but I think I got that. Yeah. Okay, we got it right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to continue. So until next time, what I want you to do is make sure that continue your studies. I will be coming back on within in 1 hour, because we have a Precept Mastery class, which we're going through with the application, which you can more than welcome if you want to join in with that. Come back and join in with us. So until then, until tomorrow, we'll be going through with it again. So until tomorrow, I say to each and every person, shalom.